Okay, we're live. Punishment and sentencing. Last chapter in your textbook. Excellent chapter. This is the consequences. The offenders committed the act. They've been found guilty. What are we going to do with them now? That's what we're going to be talking about. Sentencing is the last stage of the criminal process. You define it as a process through which sentencing authority imposes lawful punishment or sanctions on the person who was found guilty for being a bad boy. Don't do that. I did skip it. This is a good video, but it's not the one I was talking about. Let's watch this one. Unavailable. Well, so much for that. Let's not watch this one then. How's that? Purpose of punishment. Criminal law is based on just deserts. What is just deserts? In your own words, what do you think that means?
Eye for an eye.
Eye for an eye. That's good. Think of how your parents raised you. And you did something stupid. We all did. Right? And they punished you. Did you get what you deserved?
Yeah.
Most of the time, right, Gavin? That's the idea behind just deserts. Eye for an eye. Get what you deserve. Too often, and this was happening years ago, one county was punishing offenders either much more severely or much less than a neighboring county. So the state got involved and said, we gotta have some parity on how we're gonna do this. Just deserts is boring. So if you offend in Riverside County, you should get the same penalty or similar if you make the same offense in San Diego County. It should be more or less, should be about the same. Hopefully this one works.
This weird new tool is quickly becoming the most popular Christmas gift of 2022.
That doesn't work, by the way.
Kid leaving Memphis for the first time and seeing the things that he saw. Last year in the Atlantic, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote this: "The hammer of criminal justice is the preferred tool of a society that has run out of ideas." People go to jail for not having a driver's license. People go to jail for not having a home. People go to jail for having a mental illness that presents as threatening to us. People go to jail for possessing substances they're addicted to. People also go to jail, of course, for being violent, taking other people's property, for damaging property that's not theirs. Communities like ours, far too often our response to that kind of antisocial behavior is to put those people in a cage. And that doesn't work. There's another real big problem with the way we do things that doesn't necessarily apply if you have money. People with money buy car insurance and get a driver's license. People with money rent an apartment and live there. People with money have health insurance that helps them get their mental health care that they need. People with money go into rehab if they're addicted. And people with money can even buy their way out of jail if they're facing a charge of committing a violent offense under the rules of our money bail system. Far too often, if you come into contact with the criminal justice system and you don't have money, you end up in a cage. Come into contact with the criminal justice system and you do have money, you don't. So we're definitely using a hammer to treat problems that don't respond to that. And I think that we haven't run out of ideas, however. I have two for you today, and there are lots and lots more great ideas of how to treat people in the criminal justice system without using a hammer. So I'm going to tell you about two of those, but first, I want to tell you about my friend Ray. Ray grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. He graduated Carver High School. All right. He joined the Navy. He learned to weld in the Navy, and he served aboard the USS Forrestal. That's this aircraft carrier right there. And Ray has told me stories of seeing things around the world in the Mediterranean and South Pacific, the Suez Canal. I can only imagine a young kid leaving Memphis for the first time and seeing the things that he saw from the deck of that aircraft carrier. But when I met Ray, several years later, it was the year 2000, we met outside this courtroom in 201 Poplar at our Criminal Justice Center here in Memphis, Tennessee. I was a 25-year-old public defender, fresh out of law school, and Ray was one of my clients. By the time I met Ray, he was a 40-something homeless man addicted to crack cocaine. He was facing his second offense DUI, which carries with it a 45-day mandatory sentence. But Ray had scraped together enough money to bail out of of jail. And so he would meet me outside the courtroom from wherever he had slept the night before. At the same time, I had 20, sometimes 30 other clients, most of whom were in jail, and many of whom were struggling with the same problems that Ray was struggling with: mental health issues, addiction, homelessness. And my job as a 25-year-old public defender right out of law school was to help those people. And I didn't have a lot that I could do for them. And so Ray's case was particularly challenging because when we would sit down and talk about what to do about his case, I had 20 people sitting in cages, wanting out of cages, who needed my time. And we struggled to figure out what to do with Ray. We struggled with all those people. And the problem with folks like Ray was that for 10 years he'd been cycling in and out of the system, because when we bring people into the system like Ray, and like all of my many other clients over the years, and we don't have anything other than a cage to give them, when we let them out, we almost always let them back out, they come back. There's a revolving door in our criminal justice system because of that. And when you do that long enough, we've been doing it as a country for 30 or 40 years, your obligatory TEDx graph slide looks like that. The year I was born is right in the middle, just by coincidence. 1974, we had about 218,000 people in our jails and prisons in this country. 218,000. Today, that number is well above 2 million. I'm no math major, but that's 10 times the population in my lifetime. And Ray was one of those guys, and so many of my clients have been one of those people. And here's the thing, though. It doesn't apply to people like this, who about the same time Ray got into trouble, he got into trouble. That's Robert Downey Jr., who was arrested on August 25th, 1999, for speeding down Sunset Boulevard with some heroin, some cocaine, and just for good measure, a loaded .357 Magnum in the trunk of his car. Robert Downey Jr. didn't get a 25-year-old public defender to help him figure this out, as you can imagine. Robert Downey Jr. came to court with a team of attorneys, and they weren't there to proclaim his innocence and convince the judge that it wasn't really Robert Downey Jr. that did these things. They came with a plan on how to keep Robert Downey Jr. from doing it again, a plan to address his mental health issues, a plan to address his addiction and substance abuse issues. And they presented that to the judge, and the judge agreed. The judge gave Robert Downey Jr. probation. And Robert Downey Jr. left the courthouse and came back, because addiction and mental health are very complicated issues that so many of us struggle with. And when you add in the hammer of criminal justice, it becomes nearly impossible to escape. In fact, he got not just 2, 3, 4, but 5 chances before the judge finally sentenced him to prison. But he had resources, and my clients, Ray, and so many of my other clients, they don't have those. But here's the good news. We have ideas. This is a TEDx talk. So here's my first idea. This is an idea from right here in Shelby County, in Memphis, Tennessee. We have something called the Jericho Project, and it's not radical. It's the same exact thing that Robert Downey Jr.'s lawyers did for him. The Jericho Project builds a plan for people in the jail at 201 Poplar in Shelby County for when they get out. And it's only a 4-month-long plan. It's not very long. And it uses largely resources that already exist in our community. But before you leave the back door of that jail as a Jericho client, you know where you're going to get your medicine. You know when your next appointment is. You know where you're going to live if you need that. And you have someone to help you do all of that for only 4 months. At a very low cost, you have a plan. The people that the Jericho Project serves have a really high recidivism rate. They come back into the system very, very often, 80% of the time, because they suffer from mental health issues and substance abuse issues. With the Jericho Project, we cut that rate in half to 40%, which is still a lot, but I think that testifies to the complicated nature of these types of people. But it works, and it works the same way that people with resources use the criminal justice system now and have forever.
The new festive family meal, starting at $24, now celebrating at El Pollo Loco.
And so it's made a big impact on the back door of the jail in this community. We've got a problem at the front door of the jail as well, because we have a system unlike any other place in the world except for the Philippines. There are only 2 countries in the world that use money bail. And money bail is essentially this. If you can pay a bail before you answer to the charges against you, you get out of jail. Pre-trial detention serves 2 purposes. It serves the purpose of making sure you get back to court when you're supposed to be there, and it protects the community if you're a high risk to reoffend. And sometime centuries ago in England, we decided that money was the way to make this decision, and so we attach a dollar amount to someone who we arrested charged with a crime. That dollar amount is supposed to take care of that risk. Well, it doesn't work like that, as you can imagine, because you can be violent, you can have repeat, you can have a very bad record. If you have money, you pay your way out. Conversely, if you're poor, it's your first or second offense, it's a low-level drug offense, and you can't scrape together $100, you wait in a cage. So the system, again, creates one path for people with money, one path for people without. So the idea is this, and it's not original to Just City and to Memphis, Tennessee, but it's a community bail fund. We started one here in Memphis, we started one in Nashville, and what we're doing is poking a hole in this idea that money should have anything to do with this. We collect money, take donations from the community, we use that to bail people out. We remove the incentive that they have. It's not their money. If they don't come back, we don't go after them. But guess what? They come back. And in Nashville, for more than 110 times now, we've bailed people out, and 97% of the time they come back. We've had no serious incidents of reoffense. And that mirrors bail funds all across the country. They're sprouting up everywhere. We had a couple in the South for the first time. They've been in New York, they're in California, Boston, and Chicago, and they're all showing the same thing, that people come back. That using money to decide who gets let out and who doesn't is a terrible, terrible way to do it. So, what can the TEDx audience do? Why do I have a Cadillac slide up here? Here's what you need to know. You need to know about Ray. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him in just a second. But Jericho projects and bail funds are easy. The answer to this hammer of criminal justice is not more Jericho projects and more bail funds. The answer is a fundamental shift in how we see the people like Ray, and the dozens and hundreds and thousands of men and women that I've represented over the years. Seeing them, as my co-speaker earlier today, Greg Thompson said, with the irrevocable glory, irreducible glory that they represent, the potential that they represent, and not the despicable things that they've done. Because we all have that irreducible glory, and we've all done those despicable things. But we don't have a system that recognizes that 19-year-old sailor seeing the world for the first time on top of an aircraft carrier that he helped hold together with his welds. What kind of potential would we see in a young man like that? But what we saw was a 45-year-old drug addict, homeless, out in front of a courtroom. And that's what we gave him. Well, luckily for us, the people like Ray are incredibly resilient. Ray did his 45 days because he had me for a lawyer. But 28 of those days he got to spend in inpatient drug treatment. And something in Ray's experience, something in Ray's brain made him decide someday during that 28 days he was done. And he wanted to live a life of sobriety. And so every day for 18 years, he's woken up and he's decided, I'm not going to use drugs and alcohol today. He went to work. As soon as he got out, he still works for that same employer. For 18 years. He's been Employee of the Year. He has 17 people that he's supervised. He bought a Cadillac. He bought 2 Cadillacs, actually. He's had a couple, and he paid off every debt that he ever owed. But he's the exception. He's the exception because we do have a hammer, and we use it far too often. And opportunity and seeing the potential in people is not something that's in the conversation in our criminal justice system. It absolutely has to be. And we depend on people like you to force that, to force our leaders to make decisions that create opportunities like this for people like Ray, so we can have more and more and more stories like that. Because otherwise, this hammer of criminal justice.
Okay,
Breaking news.
what do you think?
If you're taking metformin or
What do you think of Ray, the story, the criminal justice system being a hammer? Agree, disagree? What are we thinking? What do you think?
I agree, it's way too broad when things are too complicated.
Do they really address the problem? Most of the time they don't. And he put Robert Downey up there. I was the administrative assistant to the warden when Downey got locked up. And I was I was in Sacramento doing training for something. And I was fielding a lot of calls from different media that wanted to have access to Robert Downey. He was a Corcoran substance abuse. And the answer, no. And leave him alone, he's doing his time. Went down to Corcoran, saw him there with I called it a hug-a-thug. That's what it looked like. They're all sitting around talking, group therapy, and he was there. And it was especially hard on him because he's so famous. And everybody wants a piece of him, and he's trying to focus on improving himself. That is probably one of the better stories, success stories, of breaking the cycle of substance abuse. Robert Downey. Dude was, I don't know if anybody knows the story, his story, how as a child, he used to get high with his dad. Yeah. He felt that was the only way he could get close to his parents. His mom was hooked on some other drugs, his dad was hooked on drugs. They were all in the entertainment business. And he said that's how he felt he could connect with his dad. Some kids would go out throw a baseball or watch a game on TV, something. His, was to go get high with his dad on the couch. So it makes sense that he would struggle throughout his life.
Do you think that he should have gotten as many chances as he did? Cause he said it was like the 5th time is when they actually locked him up.
For me, no. Yeah, for me, no. I'm glad it worked out for him that way, but no. Because the average person will never get that kind of opportunity. You know, the attorney did a good job of explaining that. But no, I don't agree with it. One, okay, we all make mistakes. Anybody here never made a mistake besides me? No, I'm the only perfect one. It doesn't exist, right? Nobody is perfect. But yet, we're pretty quick to judge others. Okay. Holier than thou type of attitude. I don't know why they gotta be using drugs. You don't know what they've been through. You really don't. I'm not advocating that somebody go out there and start using drugs and just look for the sympathy, because that ain't it either. There's real people struggling. Now, I don't know how they get through it. Maybe drugs is the crutch they lean on. I don't know. And thank God I never had experienced them. I've never been addicted to anything, I think. Maybe football. I do like football, but I smoked cigarettes in the academy because my buddy, he's still a smoker. So we'd sit there and I hated it. There's nothing else to do. As soon as we got out of the academy, never smoked again. I love beer. I like to drink beer. I like a couple of drinks. Went to the doc. Doc said because of the medication I'm on, I can no longer drink. Haven't had a drink. I can't even tell you when it was. About 5 years ago, Doc said I'm diabetic. Says you got to cut back. No sodas, no this. Cut back. So it doesn't matter to me. Whatever it is I'm supposed to do, I'll do it. Okay, I don't have that addiction. But that's me. And everybody is different. And like I said, I'm nobody to be judging. Okay, hell no. Even my whole family. It's my sister's birthday yesterday. And I give her a call. We're talking for a couple hours. Never fails. Something always comes up. They're in, you know, the family dynamic. Somebody's not talking to somebody because they did something. You know. Okay, it's bad. Now, when is this ever going to end? And it just doesn't. So, if you take that problematic situation within the family structure, people that you're supposedly love, and you can never agree on one thing, how the hell are we as a community going to ever agree on something like this? On the treatment or punishment of drug abusers, substance abusers? Don't know. I'm glad I'm done with it. It's your jobs now. Okay, here are the 5 primary, and there's 4 pillars. What did they add in there? They added retribution. Okay, and I think, did you say retribution?
I did.
You did, okay, you did, retribution. Okay, so they're calling it 5, but really, I was talking, it's only 4. Retribution, deterrence, rehab, restoration, incapacitation. You gotta know those. Okay, you have to know those. Then it tells you what each one is. This is what retribution means. Okay? This is in your canvas, plus the video will be there, so you can go back. You don't have to copy it word for word. Retribution, get back at the offender. Eye for an eye. You did this to me, I will do that to you to get even. Who wins? Who wins there? Both lose. We lose. There is no winner, so I don't like retribution. Restoration, yeah, I can go along with that, but not retribution. Deterrence, there's your 2 types, specific and general, we talked about it. Try to keep people from committing crimes. We threaten to lock them up. That should be the deterrence. As a kid, your parents probably threatened you with a spanking, or times out, or whatever the hell they could take your Nintendos away. But there was something, there was a consequence. If you didn't do what was expected of you, there's a punishment. Here's the definitions for specific and general. They're also in your textbook. Severity of punishment may also be important as a deterrent effect, but severe punishments may be more significant deterrents of minor offenses than major ones. Significant deterrents. You can keep an honest person honest. Not locking your doors. Don't present an opportunity. Keep the honest person honest. But someone that has the mindset that they're going to offend, they're going to break into your home, they're going to break into your car, they're going to cause you harm. There's nothing you can do to prevent that. Okay. Working in prisons, you have the worst of the worst, and I worked level 4. That's the highest security level other than a shoe unit or lockup. So level 4, main line, that was my bread and butter. These guys are out walking through the corridors, living in a double cell, going to work, going to school, doing whatever they do, daily routines. Our sergeant used to tell us, at any time, these guys that are walking right by you can turn on you, cause you harm, maybe even kill you. There's nothing preventing them from doing that to you, except them not wanting to. So don't give them a reason. Do your job, they'll respect you. You start being an idiot that, oh, I got a badge, I'm better than you, you're gonna get hurt. Or worse yet, somebody else gets hurt because of your actions. I don't like that. Treat people fairly, both on the street and if they're incarcerated. Give them what they're supposed to have, their issue. No more, no less, and they'll respect you for it. Rehabilitation. It'd be wonderful if it just worked properly. Rehabilitation, to correct behavior or modify behavior. Take a substance abuser, break that addiction, get them a job, put them to work. Sometimes it works, too often it doesn't. That project he was talking about in the TED Talks, Jonathan, was it called Jonathan? Jared. The Jared project.
Jericho.
Was it Jericho?
Yeah, Jericho.
Jericho, okay, Jericho. There's other states that have tried similar things, and without fail, most of them do see a reduction in recidivism. So they do work. Most of the time, they're cost prohibitive. It's just too expensive to operate. I was running a unit up in the mountains when we started the substance abuse and treatment program. We tried to break the addiction. We only had like 15, 18 inmates in a special dorm. They had daily sessions with a couple of counselors. They were treated differently. They had more privileges. But the expectation was higher for this group of individuals. Never done before in a prison setting. It worked out so well, the whole state adopted the model and even built the correctional treatment facility prison in Portland. With the idea, if you could break the addiction, then you can modify the behavior. Wish it worked better. Restoration, make them whole again. Yeah, to make them whole again. And like I said, that usually works in civil law. You cause damages of $100,000. So the court's gonna rule in your favor, tell the defendant they must make you whole again by giving you $100,000. That's the idea. Sometimes it works, more often it doesn't, but it's better than nothing. I like the community service. Just talking about that over the weekend. It was my youngest granddaughter's birthday, turned 7. Yeah, no more babies. I was reminiscing when she's just a little toddler. She's 7. Wow. So my son and I were talking about this. To make people whole again. Find this individual. $1,000. Most often they don't have the money. But what about putting them to work? I like that. I really do. I like putting people to work. I was a crew boss. God damn, it was in the 80s. Had a crew of, 15 inmates. These guys were lazy. They didn't want to do anything. And our job was to maintain the landscape. So I had mowing the lawn, right, we're out there mowing the lawn, right? Yeah, I got push mowers. If anybody remembers those old fashioned push mowers, yeah. So I had about 4 or 5, I'd have them doing that, they hated it. I loved it. Give them hose so they'd be out there hauling weeds. Give them little grass clippers, not weed eaters, they had to get down. The harder the labor, the harder I could make it, the better it was for me. We had to take down, we used to play football with inmates in prison. Tackle contact football. The staff's team, custody, versus the inmates. Too often it got too ugly and people were getting hurt on both sides. So the prison said, no more of that. Prison inmates could play inmates, staff had to play staff. I said, okay. So they took down the stadium seating bleachers that were there. And they did a good job. They took it down, put it in the back of the truck, but it left those pillars, the foundation, the big cement concrete things. We dug them up, too heavy to lift, put them on the truck. So of course, the inmate says, why don't you go get a forklift? What the hell I want to do that for? I got you. Got them sledgehammers. They'll start breaking up that rock. And that's your guys' job. Well, I go get rid of this, I take it to another location, take the truck out. When I get back, I want to see gravel instead of these big mounds of concrete. So I do, I take off, come back a few hours later, and they're in there swinging that hammer away, and they're turning the big rock into little rocks. And they thought they were done. Said, we did good, right? I said, hell no. They were about the size, say, of a baseball. I want them the size of a quarter. Keep going. All day, I had them out there with sledgehammers. That was one of my best days. If I could have put chains on them, that would have been it for me. I would have quit right there. But no, they kept going. They made it quarter size, and I turned it into sand. I want to see sand. And there they are again the next. It took about a week. But by the time we got done, all that was left was powder out there. And it was awesome. So I like putting inmates to work. Out on the streets. Why not put these offenders to work? You teach them a work ethic. There's a lot to be done. Our highways, our freeways need to be cleaned up. Put them to work. That's why. Emphasis today is on restorative justice, concept that identifies a triad of needs. The need to compensate the victim. Good, that's number 1. The victim. Don't forget about that. The need to place appropriate responsibility on the offender. And the need to attempt to reintegrate that offender back into the community. That's the whole idea of restorative justice. And it's very popular right now. But remember, for any of these to work, rehabilitation, restoration, restorative justice, for any of this stuff to work, you need one thing. What is that? One thing. If that one thing isn't there, it ain't gonna work. What is it? You gotta want it. Right? If this person does not want to improve themselves, nothing in the world you can do is gonna help. Can't make them want it. Lock them up. We're in the 80s. The prisons did turn into warehouses. I was there. I got hired on, there was 10 institutions, 2 prisons in the state of California. Only 2 prisons. Folsom, San Quentin. Everything else, they call them institutions. They didn't have wardens. They had superintendents. It was really stupid. The state finally realized that. Said, you know, let's get over this. They're all prisons, right? And the superintendent, you're not a warden. It's this stupid play on words. Program administrators, you're captains. You're doing the job of a captain. Yeah.
What does the warden do?
Whatever they want. They're appointed by the director. Okay, they're responsible for the entire operation of the prison. The financial, education, hiring and firing of staff, disciplinary, day-to-day. Wardens, they do a lot. The responsibility is a lot.
What is Alcatraz Island?
That's a museum now.
But what was it? Was it
Federal.
prison?
It was a federal prison, yeah. When they built it, it was federal. And they kind of copied what St. Quentin did. If you ever take a tour of Alcatraz and you look at the way the cells are designed, that's the way St. Quentin is. 5 tiers high, the cells back up to each other, and the front grills face away from each other with catwalks along the outer walls. We call them cell blocks. 5 tiers. I challenge anyone to walk into one of those buildings and not do this. You look straight, wow, it's high, it's up there. And we do have rails. Okay, there are rails about 3.5, 4 feet high. Yeah, inmates do go over the end. They do die by committing suicide or assisted suicide. Yeah, they get thrown over. Remember, we got a gunman there watching that's supposed to stop that, but it does happen.
Did they film films there like Natural Born Killers? Or which films movie?
Which one?
San Quentin.
I don't know if they did that one. Just before I got there, they finished filming, was it one called, like American Me or something like that? Is that what it's called? American?
Yeah.
Yeah, they filmed that one there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and when they were done, they had a big old party for the staff. Yeah, like I said, I got there a month after they finished, so I wasn't part of it. But yeah, they do go down there. You cannot build a stage to simulate that environment. Not St. Quentin. You gotta be there to appreciate it. So I took my cousin there for a tour. She was a Mormon from Utah. And you wanna see a prison? And she was, oh, yeah, because I was working at Pleasant Valley State Level 4. Another story. And I told her, if you wanna see a prison, I'm gonna show you a real prison. I called my buddy Bill, he was the chief deputy one. And I go, hey, I need a tour. He goes, come on down. So, yeah, brought her in and showed her things that normal people you don't have access to. She fell in love. She said, this is beautiful. How it operates. It is something to behold. We have a museum outside, because it's San Quentin. What's Death Row like? Death Row is nothing compared to just the architecture and the history of San Quentin. It's really remarkable.
How long did you work there again?
4 years.
4 years, San Quentin. Did you see Charles Manson?
I seen that idiot in Vacaville. I seen him in Portland. I saw him in San Quentin. He's this big, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, piece of shit. But his image. Oh no, he's a dead. Yeah, if you could get in your head. People, the inmates wanted him dead. They tried to kill him a couple of times. Resilient little shit. Right here, one. Richard Ramirez, you guys heard of him, the Night Stalker? I processed him into San Quentin the night he got there. Biggest coward I ever met. Yeah.
Funny stories, back when I had my long hair,
Huh?
people that work would call me Richard Ramirez because I look exactly
You
like him.
look very much like him. When he's dead now, but when you walked in, I thought you came back to Mountain. No, he's just a scared piece of garbage. Yeah.
Unrelated, but would you agree that we should give killers like dumb names? Like instead of Night
No.
Stalker, we should give him like Poop Man, you know?
Poopy man. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my opinion is we should kill him.
That too, but I mean, just change it.
Capital punishment. We got so many people on death row. When I got there, I think there was 363. There, I don't know, it's close to 1,000 now. Somebody wants to find out how many we got on death row. It's ridiculous how many are there. Number one cause of death for an inmate on death row, natural causes, not an execution. How is that justice? Here I go again. Now, if we had a lottery, all right, put their names in there, draw just 1 or 2 a day. Hey, cell 217 is your lucky day. Come on down. Put them on the firing squad.
671.
671. Okay, that's actually down. I think. Sounds a little lower than before, but good. From 363 to 671.
Last question
Yeah.
on this.
No
So
problem.
the guy Jeffrey Epstein that supposedly killed himself in prison, do you think he really killed himself?
A lot of things happen in prison.
So-
Yeah. I don't know. There's the official, right, statement. And then there's what really happened. I'm not privy. I tell you if I knew. I really don't. But
They call you.
I really do doubt it. Yeah.
If you kill someone in prison, you get put on death row.
No. No, you get retried. That's a good question. Remember, guys, you're an offender on the street. You're locked up in prison for whatever reasons, for whatever long amount of time. Then you kill another person while you're in prison. That's a whole new case. You go all through the court procedure, just like if it happened on the street. When found guilty, then it's up to the court to determine if that's a capital offense or not.
The police officer that for George Floyd, didn't he like stab a bunch of kids?
I don't follow those stories because they're so negative, but it wouldn't surprise me. Somebody who would do that, what he did was wrong. And his partners stood there, not only watched him, but participated. They should have been pulling his ass off and stopping that, and they didn't. He tried to say, oh no, it's a technique. I taught defensive tactics, use of force. There is no maneuver where you put a knee on somebody's throat. None. It's a red zone. You're to avoid this area from the shoulders up. He was wrong, way wrong. Okay, moving along. Trend towards warehousing is on the decline. PC, what was it? 108 maybe? Penal Code 108? They revamped the penal codes. What were felonies are now misdemeanors. They streamlined the felony process. And I had to deal with this 3 strikes balloon. I voted for 3 strikes. It was sold that a person who committed 3 violent acts was to spend the rest of their 25 years to life in prison. That's what the ballot said. But that wasn't how it was interpreted in court. The court said, if one of the 3 is a violent act, and you have 3 or 2 other acts for a total of 3, now you can go to prison for the rest of your life. And that's bull. That caused so much overcrowding. Right at this time, another thing happened. Concurrent sentencing to consecutive sentencing. Do we know what that means? Yes? No? Who wants to take a shot?
It's like if you have multiple like felonies, you're serving them all at the same time, and it don't count.
That's consecutive. And what's concurrent?
It's like, is that when you have like, your 20 years counts for both of the crimes, instead of
Pretty
just
good.
one?
Okay, think of it as a chain. All right, we got a chain here, 20 links. You're sentenced to a crime, and you get 10 years. Oh, you're doing 10 years. You're also sentenced to another crime for 15. On consecutive, when you finish this 10, you get the other 15. Okay? Concurrent, you're serving both at the same time. So you did your 10, the 15 starts here day 1 and runs concurrently. So the 10's done, I only got 5 left. So you want concurrent sentencing. That's what we had. We had concurrent, and we had prison board. The prison board determined the release date. All right, makes sense. These are subject matter experts. They would sit down with the offender, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years into their sentence, see how they're doing, evaluate them. Are they ready for release? What have you done to improve yourself? Come back in 2 years. See me again. I want you to do this, this, and this. So the board controlled the release date. If the prisons got crowded, the board would come in, evaluate some of the lesser violent crimes, look at these offenders, give them the benefit of the doubt, and tell them, okay, you're leaving in the morning. They ran the prisons, the board. Right when 3 strikes, they switched from concurrent consecutive. They also switched to some triad now. Legislature dictates when the offender is released, not the board, not the judge. For a violation of penal code, and I'm just throwing them out, 141, all right? You did something, you committed battery and aggravated and all that. So, the penal code now says, and this, I'm making up everything, okay, just for an example. So the penal code says, because you were found guilty of this penal code violation, you must do a minimum of 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. Judge's hands are tied. If the case is persuasive, he might award the 3-year sentence. He may aggravate it. It's called mitigating and aggravating. He may aggravate it to the full term of 5. But that's all he can do. Where before, for the same violation, the judge could say, I'm going to give this person 5 years to life. 5 to life. What that meant, at about 3 years, this offender sent before the board. And this group of intelligent people get to decide when this offender goes home. Put it in the hand of people who know what they're doing. Legislature took that away. Said, no, we know what's best. You're gonna do a mandatory 3, 4, 5 years. Stupid. But that's what happened, and that's what led to a lot of overcrowding. Yeah.
It's just once a year when they're out for probation, parole.
No, it just depends on the individual. I've seen people go in 6 months apart from hearing aids. I've seen them go 3 years apart. Just depends on what this board wanted to do. You know, if this guy hasn't done a damn thing, he's a non-English speaking, he was told in classification, you gotta learn English. So your job is to go to school. 3 years later, he's sitting before the board, still doesn't understand English, never went to school, he's been nothing but problems to custody, he's got serious violations. What do you think the board's gonna do? Get out of here, we'll see you in 3 more years. Yeah, go learn your lesson. Okay, so the board controlled all of that. I thought that worked. Some bean counters in Sacramento didn't like that. They wanted more control. So they came up with this. Try it. Don't get me started on the federal sentencing. It's a joke. Okay, it's a total joke. That's all I'll say about that. There are several constitutional provisions that come into play during sentencing and punishment. 8th Amendment. Okay, the 8th Amendment. Prohibition of cruel and unusual. Prohibition of excessive fines. Prohibition of excessive bail. Excessive bail. Cruel and unusual. I started in the early 80s, but a lot of my friends started in the 70s working in these prisons. One specifically, Tracy, PDI. In that prison, we talk about cruel and unusual. Did I, as an officer, ever do anything that would have violated an inmate's 8th Amendment right? Yeah. Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Was it right? Probably not. Yeah, hindsight's always funny. Should I really have done that? No, but these guys, they're violent. The one that always comes to mind, he had assaulted, battered, punched an officer. Oh, female. She was out in the yard, cute little thing, right about this big. Wow, was she cute. And he punched her. And he's a crip, hit her as hard as he could. She took the punch, right? Rolled him, came back. You call yourself a man? Wow, right? His buddy started clowning his ass. Of course, I wasn't there, I was in lockup. They went in, tackled this idiot, cuffed him up, brought him in to K1, which was the hole. We get this guy, we already heard what happened, right? We get him in, we're processing him in, and he's about your size, right? Smaller, right? A little light in the ass, a little small. This guy took a punch at a cop. That's a PC move. He's trying to lock up. So we put him in the dungeon. What's a dungeon, right? We had 6 cells. Now this is shoot, this is lockup. Nobody comes in or out. There's several celly ports before you even get to the inside. Then another celly port before you get to the cells. So the cells are here, right? They're facing this way. Open bar. There's a catwalk here, we walk here. So this is all open bar cells. Then there's a door here. We open it up, and we have 6 cells isolated back here. These did not have open bar. Well, not true. The open bars were here to the cell, but there was another wall on the outside with doors, hard doors, solid metal doors. Took this idiot back there, put him in, we called it the hole, literally. Their bed was a piece of concrete about the size of this desk, built into the wall. Their toilet was a hole in the floor. No running water, no nothing. They had one light bulb that we never put a light bulb in there. Before, used electricity, right? Stick this idiot in the hole. Forgot he was there. A few days go by, somebody asked about him. Oh, shit, that's right, he is back there. We hadn't fed him, he hadn't showered. Now, did we violate the 8th Amendment? Cruel and unusual? Yeah, we did. Did he have it coming? Yeah. That's debatable, but yeah, that whole, things happened back there that I probably forgot has happened. And I may still be able to go to court, fight the case, so I'm not gonna talk about it. But you're out of sight completely, no matter who's standing there looking down that tier, because you're in this isolated area. Nobody except that piece of shit, me and God. A lot of things happened back there. I never stabbed them or anything like that, but the crap out of you. They had it coming, guys. They had it coming. Okay, the court said, that's not right. You can't go around these amendments. And you gotta feed them. Okay. So we get the carts down there. And the court said we gotta feed them. My buddy Preston, it's a steam cart. So you have the hot stuff here and then the cold stuff down here. And you have to make the trays in front of them. So we get down there with our ladle, literally, like you see them, we just slop them. We're supposed to wear gloves and hats like you work at McDonald's. He had a bigger beard than I have right now. Loved his cigars. So he's sitting there with a cigar, ashes going into the food. It wasn't the best. So we failed every inspection we ever got in that unit. It's called the 115A. You're supposed to document any contact you ever have with any of these inmates. If you fed them, if you let them go to yard, if you took laundry exchange, if they got mail, any contact is supposed to be documented. We never documented anything. We didn't give a damn. They were scum. They were losers. The worst of the worst. Until the court said, either, it was called Tucson versus Russian. Either you guys start doing this, or we're gonna have a court monitor watching you. Shit, we don't want that. We did a lot of crazy shit. We don't want witnesses, right? So we cleaned up the act. Okay, we started documenting things, and hindsight, guys, yeah, we should have been doing that all along. They should have running water, right? Hot, at least cold water? Somewhere they could wash up a little bit. A toilet instead of a hole? Okay, we put toilets in there. Put a mattress on their cement block, and we had to give them a light bulb. So we give them a light bulb, but then we turn electricity off in the tunnel. So they still didn't have a light. Hey, we did what the court said. The sergeant get pissed. Go turn that power back on. Yes, sir. We do something else to them. So anyway, that's just the way it went. But yeah, the court was right. We should have been doing those kinds of things. But it's hard when you're put into that position. Okay, we're going to stop at cruel and unusual punishment. When we come back Wednesday, we're going to start with excessive fines, and I want to talk about bail. Okay, so if there's no questions, guys, please come back Wednesday so we can wrap this up.